Welcome to the Benaiah show. Today I'm joined by Philippa, a digital marketing strategist and analytic expert with over 25 years of experience helping business uncover hidden opportunity and inside their website dates. Philippa help business owner stop guessing, stop wasting money, and start making smarter decisions based on what the numbers are really saying. Philippa, it's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Philippa, you say most business owners are flying blind online. What does that actually look like in practice?
So, what that means is that anybody who has a website, which plays an important role in their business, which
Yeah.
many do, some don't, but many do. If you aren't looking at the analytics for your site and what's going on and what they can tell you, then you really have no idea what's working, what's not working. Even if you're getting sales, even if you're getting some of the things you want, there are so many places where a website can kind of leak, places where visitors fall off or leave or don't do what you want them to do. And then you can go from there to actually getting ideas for new products and services or target markets. So there's a huge amount that you can tell that there's just no way you could tell by looking at the site. So that's without the analytics, you're kind of flying blind.
Yeah, amazing. So, why do many businesses ignore or misunderstand their website analytics?
Because it's incredibly confusing and complicated. And no, that's absolutely correct. I mean, if you look at a screen of Google Analytics, for example, and you've never seen it
Yeah.
before, I mean, it's ridiculous. You have absolutely no idea where to start. You have absolutely no idea what to do. And why should you? Because it's completely overwhelming. We have, they're introducing AI assistants and so on, which can get you started for sure. But my beef with AI assistants is that they don't tell you why. They can say, look, you got more of this last week than you did the week before and whatever. But they don't necessarily tell you why, and they don't tell you what to do about it, which I think is where hopefully human intelligence still comes in.
Yeah.
Certainly in the specific context of your business. I mean, they might make generic suggestions, but, is that going to work for you? Who knows?
Wow, that's really amazing. The fact that you just make reference of AI can actually give you answers, but not the reasons behind those particular generic answers. And that really speaks volumes. So, what is the biggest misconception people have about digital analytics?
Biggest misconception. I think it's not so much as a misconception as just that people don't really use them very well. I mean, for example, a lot of people will use like a generic metric, number of visitors or something like that,
Yeah.
and not go much further. Where to really the number of visitors doesn't really matter. What matters, and I'm talking about a business website, right, is the number of visitors that are correct for your business and likely to do business
Yeah.
with you, right? Qualified visitors. If all of your visitors are completely the wrong kind of customer or potential customer, then it doesn't do you any good, right? So thinking more deeply about the numbers than just the sort of superficial dashboard kind of read, go away, I think is one of the really big problems that I see a lot out there.
Yeah, amazing. So, if someone feel overwhelmed by numbers, where should they start?
You know, it's a question I get asked all the time, and honestly, the answer is it depends. It depends on what you're trying to do. So another huge mistake that people make with analytics is that they try to measure absolutely everything they can. So, in Google Analytics, for example, I don't know how many default metrics there are. It's an awful lot. It's well over 100, maybe over 150. You can't measure 150 different things and expect to get
Yeah.
anything meaningful out of it that you can actually do something with, right? There's no point measuring anything unless you're going to do something about it. And you can't figure out what to do about it if you're looking at so many things at once. Because the point is, if you say, oh, we need to try maybe to reword this call to action or to make it look different or to move this piece of content or something that you want to try to see if it makes a difference, you've got to be able to focus on that, make that change and see if anything, you're more successful, right? If you're moving all sorts of other things at the same time, again, you can't hone in on what's working and what's not working. So it's actually a much better idea, rather than saying, here's a list of metrics, to say, what are the key things that you need to know today that you would take action on? Right? What's the like 3 things about your website that you want to work on right now, and focus on those and focus on the metrics that are going to help you figure those questions out. So it's, potentially it's a bit different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it's
so
a
true.
much more intelligent way to go about it.
Yeah, amazing. So, should business owner rely on their web designer for analytics or take ownership themselves?
So that's a very common misconception. A lot of people think that, your web designer might be able to put analytics on the website. I mean, literally implement the tool, but that doesn't mean that they're qualified to interpret the data. And I don't think you should expect them to be able to do that, because it's a very, very different skill set. I mean, I don't do any web design. I'm a horrible designer, and I don't want to go anywhere near it, right?
Yeah.
So, and putting that, like I say, implementing the tool is a very different thing from actually looking at the data and saying, what does this mean and what should you do about it? So that is not, for me, a web design task, unless you happen to have a web designer who happens to really know their stuff around it.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So can you share more like a real example where analytics reveal loss of revenue or wasted spend?
My favorite example of where analytics shows up wasted spend, for example, often is social media advertising. A lot of people like to do social media advertising because it's fairly cheap, especially compared to Google advertising. You can see, like, if you're just looking for click-throughs, sometimes you can see click-throughs and they think that must mean it's working. The thing that I like to look at in the analytics is what happens when those people arrive at the site. From much of the time, most of them just go away again, because they might have seen your post in social media, they kind of got attracted to it because it looked interesting, but they weren't actually proactively looking for what you do or what you're offering, and so they're not really in buying mode. We talk a lot about the intent of a visitor who comes to a website, and so they just go away, and whatever money you spent on social media advertising is therefore mostly is wasted, basically. So, looking for places where you are spending money on specific tactics and it's not paying off for you. Sometimes people say, oh, let me get my website together and done, and then I'll bring you in. And honestly, that doesn't always help, because there are things that you can build into a website design that actually make analytics more difficult. For example, pieces of code from other vendors like Calendly or, booking engines and so on, video that you embed from other players and things. You just need to have maybe a sanity check on what you're doing. And also, I'm a strategist as well as an analytics person. So, where are your calls to action? What role is your content playing? Is the whole thing going to fit together well? How's the sort of flow through the site? So really, your web designer may not be that qualified to give you that advice, as opposed to the actual look and feel of the thing. So honestly, it's really never too early to call in a strategic person.
Amazing. So how can analytics improve decision makings beyond marketing?
So as I said earlier, you can find out what's going wrong with your site and hopefully plug some of those leaks where people aren't doing what you want them to do. And then, as I said, I actually wrote a book called Website Wealth, which came out over the summer. And it's got lots of stories in it about how we found new opportunities for products, services, or target markets that we didn't really know about before. So that's another whole thing that you can do. So you can actually really grow your business from all sorts of intelligence that you get from your website.
So what should a small business think about data privacy when using data analysis tools?
So that in countries where data privacy is really important, like GDPR, Europe, for example, in the US, state of California, you need to make sure that you do have consent of your visitors if you're collecting personal information, which is things like ways to identify your email address, your credit card numbers, your telephone number, etc., and permission to store that information in some way. And Google and other sort of advertising platforms are increasingly checking that you're doing that in order to be able to use them. And there's lots of little pieces of code, and again, that is something that your web designer should be able to set up for you. So that is something to be aware of. Even if you aren't in Europe or the state of California or whatever, if you have visitors from those areas, then it applies to your website because of those visitors.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what's one simple actions our listener can take this week to stop leaving money on the table?
Just go and start. See if there are pages where people are leaving more often and not staying, if they've got content that isn't creating engagement. Where you're asking people to do something like, is it sign up for the newsletter or buy something or send in a lead? Are they doing that? Just try and really get into what your website is trying to do and then start figuring out if it's doing it.
Wow, amazing. This conversation has do be short though, but there's a whole lot of insight into how the answers to the question is so direct to the point, and I'm so grateful. Yeah, thank you so much. My audience, Yeah, for my audience who actually want to connect with you, who want to get your book, and who want to reach out for you for business or for different deals, how can they reach out, and where is the best platform to do this?
I use LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn very much. You can easily find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only person with my name on LinkedIn. And hopefully you can find there links to my book, to my website, and you can contact me as well. And, if anybody has any questions, I'm always happy to answer questions.
Amazing, amazing. So definitely, I'm going to kind of add the link to your website and that of your LinkedIn, so that my audience can easily reach out. So, what is going to be your final words to my small business owner who are out there, who are still thinking of website, who are still thinking about what to use these, and what is going to be your final words to them in respect of data
So,
analysis?
tools like Google Analytics, or I use Microsoft Clarity, which is screen recording, and Heat Map, they're all free. Doesn't cost you anything to put them on your website, so don't fly blind. Get them on your website and start being more intelligent about your marketing.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, thank you, Philippa. Thank you for breaking this down in such a clear and practical way. If you're listening and you want to uncover the hidden opportunity on your own data, check the show notes for the link to free to Philippa's book, and also to actually reach out to her. This has been the Benaiah show, and really, it's really a pleasure having you on the show, Philippa.
Thank you so much.